Codebreaker, the one question that reveals the narcissist. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. I consult with thousands of people who arrange to speak with me to help them unravel the situation that they found themselves in with a confirmed or suspected narcissist. My expert information and forensic analysis of the situation, along with my objective observations, has enabled thousands of people through consultation to achieve freedom. Often, those that I speak with say, HG, wouldn't it be great if narcissists had some kind of flashing light above their head or an N branded on their forehead so we knew who they were ahead of time? Naturally, one understands that sentiment. But it doesn't exist, and there's no governmental program yet for the assessment and the compulsory assessment of every human being within a country to determine whether they're a narcissist or not, and then to brand them as such. And therefore, this enables my kind to continue to move amongst you easily, fitting in, conning people, only resulting in our exposure at a much later juncture once the damage has been done, and in some instances, never being exposed at all. Much is made about the necessity of identification of narcissists, and there is much you can do to spot a narcissist. And I detail this information in my books Red Flag and Black Flag, and much of my videos provide you with signs that demonstrate that you may well be dealing with a narcissist. One of the key things is to look at behavior. You see, what the narcissist tells you, the narcissist can say anything because talk is cheap. It's easy for the narcissist to give a glib answer, to say the things that you want to hear, to brush over things. It's only the most unsophisticated narcissist that comes a cropper with regard to those questions. Many narcissists, being glib, charismatic, and of intelligence, are able to bat back certain questions in a convincing way. And combined with a lack of general understanding about narcissism and the presence of emotional thinking, most people lack the forensic capability to identify that they're dealing with a narcissist. Thus, they become ensnared. Many people don't know what to look for. Even when they do know what to look for, they become diverted by their own emotional thinking. But it is fundamental to be able to understand how the narcissist behaves so that you can spot them. Because even though you've been caught once and you got away and you're determined to never let it happen again, chances are it could. And of course, you can't go through your life completely avoiding all narcissists. You'd have to go and live in a cave up a mountain for that to be the case, and that's clearly impractical. You're going to have exposure to other narcissists, romantically, in the workplace, friends, family, neighbours, etc. But there is much you can do to protect yourself, and that's something that I advise people on in consultation. Having helped them escape from one narcissist, I then get them what I call match fit for getting back out in the world again, perhaps starting dating again, by ensuring that they know what to look for and that they'll pay heed to the signs that they see. There is, however, a particular question that can be utilized by you to help you in your quest to determine, is this person a narcissist? I've explained elsewhere some instances of questions which are touted as ones that would enable you to identify that you're dealing with a narcissist, but in actual fact won't help you at all. And the question that you can use that will help you determine, is this person sat in front of me, or the person that I'm talking to on the telephone or on Skype or whatever, a narcissist, is linked to the question of relationships. Narcissists have numerous relationships. Those are of a romantic, intimate nature. There are friends. There are familial relationships, working relationships, neighbourly relationships. And therefore, it is the analysis of those relationships which provides a lot of clues as to what that person is. Now, of course, you might not be in a position to have seen how this person interacts with their former intimate partners. You weren't around. You might not have seen yet how they interact with friends and family and colleagues. But what you can do at an early stage of a pending relationship with someone to gauge that you might be dealing with a narcissist is to ask them this. Tell me about your relationships. It has to be open. So don't ask, do you have good relationships with your exes? The narcissist would simply say, yes, I do. I've always got on with them. Of course, relationships sometimes don't work out, but have always parted on good terms. The way that you have phrased that question amounts to a threat to control in that instant to the narcissist. And the narcissism must nullify it. And the simplest way to do so is to give you the answer that you would be looking for, which is, I would like to have a relationship with someone who's not on bad terms with their exes. Therefore, the narcissism causes the narcissist to say, yes, relationships end, but they've ended on good terms. We understand why they come to an end. And there's been no ill feeling about it. You've set yourself up for that answer because of the way that you asked the question. Instead of asking, did all of your relationships work out? To which the narcissist go, no, however, that's the nature of them, isn't it, that some won't work out? But I like to think that I could still talk to my exes if I was to bump into them in the street. This is all part of maintaining that veneer with you. What you do is you ask that open question. What were your previous relationships like? Tell me about your relationships. So, what happened in your previous relationships then? Ask that open-ended question, and it could be applicable to intimate relationships, working relationships, friend relationships. But it is most potent in relation to romantic and intimate relationships. Because what you're now doing is giving the narcissist opportunity to get up on their soapbox, to get up on the stage and tell you all about their previous relationships. And the fact is, unless you're dealing with a very skilled, highly evolved narcissist, and it's unusual for you to be involved with those, the narcissist will not be able to help themselves but complain about certain aspects of the relationships and demonstrate how they have been the better person about it. Because the narcissist will have difficult relationships, they always exist. No narcissist has gone through life with perfect relationships. It just doesn't happen. It might be the case that they maintain good friend relationships. It might be that they're on decent terms with their family, but there will be repeated issues in romantic relationships. More likely, there will be problems in each field of relationship. There'll be one or two family members where there's been an issue. There'll be a couple of friends that have fallen by the wayside. There'll be a difficult colleague. And invariably, plenty of instances of poor relationships that have taken place on a romantic and intimate footing. By opening up the stage to allow the narcissist to air their views, you can just sit back and allow the monologue to commence. The grandiose narcissist will tell you about how he brought so much to the relationship. Where those that exhibit those grandiose behaviours will talk about how they were the one that brought so much into that relationship and the other person let them down. Mid-range narcissists will engage in pity plays. They'll tell you about how they were hurt, how they loved this person, but whatever they did, it was never enough. They may well catalogue all of the abuse that they've experienced. They will go into considerable detail as to how they were hurt. What you'll find is that particularly with the mid-range narcissists, you'll get this catalogue of how hard done to they've been. An oversharing of information, which tells you that you're likely to be dealing with a narcissist. The fact that they can't show some judicious response. The fact that they pour out all of this information about their exes, criticizing them, and you'll essentially witness criticisms of the ex and bullying themselves up. How they tried their best. They may even say, I know I have my faults, but I tried my best in this relationship, but it was never enough. They did this to me, they did that to me. In some instances, you get a lengthy monologue of all of the catalogue of horrors that have been meted out. That she was crazy, I just couldn't understand her, she was nuts. Or everything was all right at first, and then all of a sudden she just started to cause problems for me. Or he cheated left, right and centre. He couldn't keep it in his pants. Now, of course, there are people who are not narcissists that may well have had a succession of bad relationships because they've repeatedly been ensnared by narcissists. But if you ask a genuine victim early on about that, they are not going to go bleh and spill all of that detail because of their inherent recognition of boundaries, their emotional empathy for you in not wanting to burden you with their life story. Instead, they may well say, well, things were difficult with my ex, but I'm pleased to say I've moved on from that. Or I haven't had a lot of luck, actually, in relationships. I've had many difficulties with them. But ultimately, I'm hoping that things will improve. What you won't get is the deliverance of lots of information about how awful those individuals were. A non-narcissist isn't going to overshare. A non-narcissist, of course, may not have had that catastrophic relationship listing to begin with, and therefore they will respond along the lines of, well, I've had 3 or 4 serious relationships, they didn't work out. We grew apart in one, and another, we were working in different cities, so it was difficult to find time for one another. You'll generally get explanations which don't go into a huge amount of detail, but aren't necessarily vague. You can gauge that the response is an appropriate one. That non-narcissist has no need to assert control over you or over the person that's being mentioned. So you get a short potted history instead. Where the non-narcissist has had a lot of difficult relationships before, they're not going to share all of that detail with you because they will recognise the boundaries, that they will show accountability, that they won't want to admit to it. Not because they've anything to hide, but they just don't think that it's appropriate to go into such detail at an early juncture. You may well get that detail down the line once you get to know that person better and they open up for you. But early on, it's more likely that it's a narcissist that spills all of the detail. Accordingly, by asking about those relationships, because a narcissist always has difficult and haphazard relationships, they always exist, that the narcissist has 2 issues. Your question threatens their need for control, but also you're bringing up on the radar those exes by asking about them, which means in that moment the narcissist must assert control over them and over you. So the narcissist asserts control over you by answering your question invariably, providing plenty of detail, and asserts control indirectly, the second assertion of control, over all of those exes by in effect smearing them, by going into detail about how she was crazy and he was an alcoholic and he never listened and he never helped out around the house and he did this to me and then he did that to me and then this happened and then that happened, and you get this whole tirade, a mass of details. And The common theme, of course, is that this person has always been the one that's been hard done to. They're always the one that has suffered despite their best endeavours. They will tell you about how much love they gave. They will tell you about how hard they worked at the relationship. But invariably, it was all in vain. Ask that question, and if you get a response along the lines that I've just explained to you, there's a very good chance that you're talking to a narcissist. Naturally, the only way to make that determination is to look at their behaviour over a sustained period of time. That's always the appropriate way to make a final determination. But if you want to play safe and weed out people who probably are narcissists, then asking this question and gauging the response along the lines that I've explained is a very useful way of weeding out individuals who are more likely than not going to be narcissists without having to take the risk of spending more time with them and watching their behaviour. And of course, if you happen to weed out somebody who isn't a narcissist, well, at the end of the day, there's plenty of other people that you could find, and it's better for you to be safe than sorry. But for the most part, asking this question, asking an individual to talk about their relationships, with their parents, their siblings, their friends, their neighbours, but especially romantic relationships, sets up a platform that the narcissist simply can't resist because of the necessity of the need to assert control, which is hardwired into the narcissist. And you're given all of this information, which then you can make an appropriate evaluation from. I'm